Hey guys, what's going on? This is the first ever episode of the After Foreplay podcast. Hope you enjoy a little one-on-one time with Zach and I. This was our first time sitting down with a couple of mics. Had a little bit too much to drink, but we hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as we did recording it.
All right, we're starting a podcast,
we're live.
man.
We're doing it.
We're live. We're doing the podcast.
Me and you, brother.
All right, we're drinking. Now this isn't going to be an always podcast thing, but we think for the first one, it's probably
it'd be too unhealthy for us to do rum and Red Bull
all the time.
all the time.
Not sponsored by Redbull, but it could be.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers. Cheers to After Foreplay.
After Foreplay podcast.
All right, so I feel like sometimes when I listen to people starting podcasts, they just list off all the things they're going to talk about. And I don't want that.
I've actually never listened to a first episode of a podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Never.
So I feel like a lot of times when people are getting started, they just, this is what we're going to be doing. Like, trying to get people hyped, almost like a commercial for the podcast. But I feel the best commercial is just to actually do what we're going to be doing when it's at full swing.
You want to talk about like down the road what we want it to look like?
I feel like I don't want to do that. I feel like at the end of the day, I think both of us when we were starting this, what we were saying is that we wanted something that we wanted a project in our life that had zero goal, if that makes sense. Like I think we do have a goal. We want everything that we do to be successful, but I think this is something where we're not shooting for it. We're not shooting for the outcome. We're not beginning with the end in mind.
Okay.
We're doing it kind of very instinctively, and we want it to evolve with whatever feels natural to like whoever we're having on, and
we're not trying to make any monetary gain by this whatsoever.
No, I feel like everything we do in life for you and I, it is pretty much driven by monetary gain.
Yeah. So this is like one of the things.
One of the things that we're doing for just pure pleasure, and so like I feel like if I was listening, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone listening for the first time. I'm assuming most people will know who we are from our personal lives, but if someone was listening, they didn't know who we were. I think, as a whole, this podcast is a pillar at the end of every week, for us.
Yeah.
And it's one of those. It's adding a piece of consistency to our weeks, where we can like decompress and as well provide hopefully some value to people. I think that throughout the week, both you and I, we do like a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of that stuff could be shared with people. Like I know that for me, if I looked at myself, 3 years ago, I'd want to be listening to myself
100%.
right now.
100%.
So I'm thinking that if we are starting this with a goal, I feel like it's to talk to ourselves 3 years in the past. And I feel like as long as we stay true to that, I think it's going to end up in a good place where we want it to be.
I like that. And also a lot of the times that the two of us are together, we're talking about a lot of things where we're like, man, this would be so interesting for other people to listen to. Especially not to toot our own horns.
No, 100%. Like, especially like things like we do, like when we're traveling and stuff, we've had so many times where we're like sitting in a cool place and it facilitates this amazing conversation. Like, fuck, that'd be such a good podcast. It happens so often. Yeah. I think it was just one of those things where we finally bit the bullet on this and got the mics and
we live pretty unconventional lives.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are irregularities most people don't see that I think would be interesting.
Yeah.
Whether it be like stories and business principles that have worked and not worked and all that kind of good stuff.
There's lots of good stories that I feel like are going to be unpacked over these two mics.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's probably a good time to transition to like, we are taking a very instinctive approach to this podcast, but it's going to have a little bit of structure. I think that if we were to sit down and just shoot the shit, I don't know if it would probably fulfill that side of us that said we just want to do something for out of a passion, but it wouldn't fulfill that value part that we want to do for other people. So I think I'll let you take it away with what we think the pillars are going to be.
Sure. So, I mean, like we want it to be a lot of value and as well as have the entertainment, because I think even when you and I listen to podcasts, we like some of the podcasts that have a lot of entertainment and then we like some of them that are really dense and have a lot of value, and something that's like in between, I think is where you and I align that, that's something that we want to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in terms of what we thought of as pillars of what we want. So the podcast is called After Foreplay, which is an interesting enough name in and of itself, and perhaps we'll get into that in a little bit later. But the three pillars that we thought would be the best for like a general structure around the conversation is business, biohacking, and bullshit.
Yeah.
Because most of our conversation, if not all of it, Because I think when you initially proposed this to me, you're like, this is a great idea for 3 pillars, business, biohacking, and bullshit. And you're like, does that encompass everything that we talk about? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't talk about anything else but that.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 pillars we thought, the 3 Bs,
Yeah.
business, biohacking, and bullshit.
And we're taking a very liberal approach to defining the word biohacking.
Yeah.
I feel like we want to put
how
that.
we fit things
That's how we fit
to the 3
things in.
words sounded good together.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think
Yeah.
both of us are interested in biohacking, but we're not by any means biohackers.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's almost like we are going to be the I don't know how it's like we're your neighborhood biohackers. You know? we're not like super into it. We're not doing tests on ourselves, but we are looking for efficiencies throughout our day. Both of us have a lot of stuff on our plate, and we want to be continuing to put more stuff onto our plate, whether it's from physical challenges to actual business endeavors or things that more align with our passions. We're always kind of taking more on, and you reach a limit. And I think that both of us look at the term biohacking as a very loose term, and it's that it can come down to even hacking relationships, the way you interact with people to make sure that they like. I would say that the way we look at biohacking is more life optimization, life design, maybe. I feel like life design is a better way that we describe biohacking. Yeah,
like the business part is kind of separate from the life life optimizing part,
Yeah.
Like the business part is a pillar definitely in and of itself, but then the personal part encompasses a lot. And I feel like biohacking could, compartmentalize all the stuff that we talk about, whether it be like productivity hacks or, like you said, some relationship hacks and how we're, all the different things that we take into account when we're working on ourselves.
Right. Okay, so I feel like we're getting really high level right now. Exactly what we said we didn't want to do. What's your over the last 2 weeks? What's your number one implementation that you've done in your life that's like a little bit of like a biohack or a life optimization? What's the most? It doesn't even be the most transformative. What's the one you want to share the most?
Bought the Aura ring,
okay,
which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
I lost it.
Yeah.
Which is a classic amongst
us.
Yeah. We lose a lot of things.
Oh, we lose everything.
I don't know. I have a toss up in my head about this. If it's like a good thing, it's like, oh, we're just so deep in our thoughts because we're so philosophical.
Forget everything.
That we just forget little petty things.
No, I think we're just irresponsible.
Irresponsible. It's probably actually what it is. So I got the Aura ring from a recommendation. Where did I originally hear about it? It might have been probably like a Ben Greenfield podcast, but I've been kind of looking around the market for something to track sleep recently. So I got the Aura ring, and I've been starting to kind of dabble in tracking my sleep and trying to optimize that, which has been kind of interesting. So we could get into that if you want to, or if we want to.
I mean, let's. I feel like maybe let's distill it down to something that. What was the main takeaway that you had from your limited time with the Aura ring before you lost it? What is that? What was the key takeaway? What was the spark notes of it? Like, what changed in your life? What did you even notice that you should change to optimize your sleep or at least get more out of it? Okay,
so let me start kind of broad. It's interesting because with anything like sleep, dieting, or anything like that, it's always like there's always programs and a lot of trending things people do around trying to optimize their health, weight loss, sleep, anything in the kind of health realm. And a lot of these things, I think they work just because they're programs,
right?
Not necessarily what the program is. It's because people start tracking these things. And anytime you're tracking how much sleep you're getting and the quality of the sleep, it's going to be a good thing. Same with diet. No matter what kind of diet you're on, if it involves tracking what you're eating, it's going to be beneficial. So I think there's a lot to say about just having some sort of tracking around your sleep. Yeah. I mean, just having the Aura ring and knowing that I'm going to be looking at how much sleep I'm getting, I'm putting more mental attention into making sure I'm getting enough sleep. So there's a lot to say about just having some sort of tracking no matter what it is. Because anytime I bring up the Aura ring to somebody, it's like, oh, I got the Fitbit and it's $150 and the Aura ring's $300. What are the benefits aside from that? And I think a big takeaway is just track it somehow. You know what I mean? Right. But in terms of the Aura ring specifically, I mean, there's a good podcast from the founder, and I think it's Tim Ferriss, or he might be on a couple. He did one with him, yeah. He did one with him where he talks about the technology involved. I mean, one thing that I like about the Aura ring is like the hardware. It's just a little ring, which is much nicer. I used to sleep with the Apple Watch on, it's so big and intrusive, and just wearing a little ring when you sleep, I find much easier. But in terms of where my sleep has been, So it tracks like the different stages of your sleep, and I don't want to get into like, because I'm not a sleep expert of like all the stages and how you should be optimizing it. But I noticed that I was losing out on a lot of REM sleep, and so I was looked into kind of some of the ways that I could kind of get more REM sleep throughout the day, which is like your dream sleep that you're getting. Which looking at some of the research involved, it looked to be that REM sleep was associated with like your cognitive replenishing, like.
Right.
So I thought
important.
that would be kind of important.
Yeah.
So I used to listen to a lot and watch a lot of like things that would take my mind off of work at the end of the day, like movies on an iPad or like random bullshit. And I stopped doing that, and I have seen an increase in REM sleep, not having any screen time before bed. So
what do you dream about? If you do dream, do you remember your dreams?
I remember all of my dreams.
Really?
No, not all of them.
It's like how do you remember that you forgot? Or you forgot some.
I do remember a lot of them.
Okay.
So I was looking at so the Oura Ring will show you a graph of like your stages of sleep plotted against the time of your sleep.
Yeah.
And I was noticing a lot of REM sleep right before I woke up. So it makes sense if you have a REM sleep right before you wake up, you'll remember all your dreams or the dreams that you had. So yeah, I remember a decent amount of my
dreams. Do you have
dreams.
any like reoccurring dreams?
I had this one scary ass dream from a kid.
Okay. Do you still get it?
I haven't had it in a while, but I'm like fighting a witch with my friend.
Okay.
And then she's in a chair, but still beating us, which,
interesting.
says something about me, I guess.
We'll let the online psychologist just unpack that
for me.
Yeah.
I hope so. And I'm fighting this witch, and somehow I fall beside her on the chair, and she turns to me and points the wand, and then I wake up. Every time, and I've had it a decent amount of times. Have you had any recurring dreams?
I had like more of those kinds of like helpless reoccurring dreams like when I was a kid, but I feel like they've kind of subsided as I've grown up. But I have one recently, probably within like the last 6 months, and I'm in a room completely by myself. And I wouldn't say that it's a dark room or a light. I get that because someone asked me this. I was telling them about this dream, and they were like, "Was it a dark room or a light room?" I'm like, "I don't know what it was. It wasn't dark nor light. It was just a room." And so it's like looking back, it's like I don't know what color the walls are, but I take a basketball shot and I miss it, and there's no one in the room to see me miss the shot.
Okay.
And then the dream's over, and so I've been trying to unpack it because I keep fucking getting this dream.
When was the last time you had it?
3 nights ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
this is recent.
this is recent.
So you're in a gymnasium on your own. You take the
not
shot.
a gymnasium. No. I don't know what the room is. The room is not dark nor light. The room is not a gymnasium or an empty room. But it's a room with nothing. There's nothing other than me and the basketball net, and I miss the basketball net. And then I wake up, like, almost like, fuck, I missed it. Yeah.
That would drive me insane.
Yeah, never made it.
You don't get to take a reshot.
No, it's like I wake up.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I've been unpacking it. Again, I'm not an expert on this, and I haven't looked anything up, and I've been trying to, like, unpack it in my head. Like, what can I get from this dream? Not, like, what does this mean, but, like, what can I take from it? And I feel like it's almost, like, reminding me that, like, to do stuff when people aren't watching.
Okay.
And it's almost like the things that you're doing when people aren't watching are the things that really, really matter. You know, like nobody's watching me take this shot, but like every day we take shots where people aren't watching, and like they're just as important. You know, because the shot eats me alive when I'm in the dream. You know, and no one's watching. Like it's just a basketball shot.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of significance to nobody watching.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like you're kind of taking missed shots
because it's almost like if there was people watching, there's a reason to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. That's the conclusion I've been drawing from it. Okay. My biohack. I know you like this one. So I mean, we both recently moved.
Yeah.
And so that's led to furniture, redoing our apartment, like a ton of stuff. Like we're both like probably not even close to where we want our current living situations to be. Both of us are avid overthinkers.
That's a great way of describing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like. I've had people come into this place and there's like tape on the floor. It's like, what? Because I'm measuring stuff out. Like I'm trying different couches. Like with the tape, like you know, like
is this a murder scene?
Yeah. Like for me, it's like if I'm gonna make a decision, you might as well make the right one. If I, like you know, like you might as well put the effort into making the right one. Like it took me like 2 weeks to order a couch. I recently just ordered one today. But okay, so I think we're digressing a little bit here.
Let's start of how we got here, because we were working. We both work from a laptop. We don't need to be anywhere. And I feel like there's a lot of people working from home that are looking for the optimal work situation. The optimal work environment. And this was a question that we were pondering for a little bit.
I feel like we're close to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be closer than where we were.
It's going to be okay. So I think backstory here is good. So you started your business from your parents' house.
Yes.
Right. So did I, but on like a way smaller level. And so like I worked out of my home, whether it be my parents' house or my university dorm versus my first apartment, and then like the apartment that I just recently moved out of.
Where in your parents' house? Was it your bedroom? Where were you working at?
Yeah, man, my bed. It was my bed, my laptop on my lap.
Well, you were young. You were much younger.
I was super young. I wasn't thinking about anything about optimization at that point. It was like, let's just make $200 designing this like little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I had homework for a while. I had never had another job realistically, other than working out of home. And so when I had moved into my previous apartment before I moved here, I was working there, and I was at a point where I was financially able to afford an office, and so I had taken that leap. I found like a shared office space here in Toronto, and that was my first office space. And there was a lot of benefit that came with that, separating yourself from work, having more routine. You know, a lot of things can happen when you're working hard and working from home. Like life and work can bleed, and I find that sometimes it's hard to find happy places, if that makes sense. You know, if your home life isn't great, then it's bleeding to your work life. Your work life isn't great, it's bleeding to your home life. I think there's a lot of things that can happen in that point. So it was nice to move in this office. And then from there, I had an opportunity to move into an office of like kind of one of my mentors. And I had been there for 2 years, and then had just recently left. And at that point, we had started jamming in terms of business together. And then so we were kind of like, you had always worked from home. I had seen both, and then we had found ourselves working in your lounge of your apartment building every day. And
so we were bringing, to give everybody a little bit of context, we were bringing our 27-inch iMacs.
It's like the biggest desktop you could buy.
Down to this lounge, this communal lounge in my building.
I was hopping in an Uber in the morning with an iMac.
With a sweater covering the iMac.
Ubering over to your place.
Yeah. And then we were setting it up in a communal lounge, taking up all the space.
All of the space.
Yeah. We were holding meetings in there.
Yeah.
We were leaving our MacBooks there and going for lunch for a few hours.
Yeah. So
and there's a bunch of people trying to work in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
Long story short, we created a new policy in the building, unfortunately, that they essentially sent out a memo being like, you can't use the lounge as office space. But we had it going for a good 2 months, I think.
Yeah. And they give us a few days notice, and they were like, after this, you can't bring your Macs, any monitors down.
And that had started a conversation with us where we're like, you know, I think both of us took a step back and we're like, okay, we're moderately successful people. We have the money to pay for space. Why aren't we paying for people that are bigger than us are paying for? You know what I'm saying? It was kind of one of those things where, who the fuck are you? Let's make a move, kind of thing. And so that had led us into, and I think that was kind of right before the Dallas trip.
Yeah.
Right. Or no, I don't.
It might have been right.
The Dallas
after.
trip might have happened before, and then this happened after. And I think it was almost like a snowball effect, where it's like, you know, Dallas trip happened where we went to go see Tony Robbins. We had started talking about, you know, getting an extract. So Tony Robbins, we had went to Unleash the Power Within. This is going to be a little quick. We don't want to get into this. I think this would be a separate episode. But we had went to Tony Robbins, and he tells this amazing story about, you know, he had gotten a woman pregnant, and he had decided that was when he was going to change his life. He wanted to like give this kid an amazing life, and so he had rented this place called the Del Mar Castle, right? And it was, you know, the rent for the year was the same amount as his salary or how much he made the previous year. So he made like $38,000, and to rent it for the whole year was $38,000 the next year. And in doing that, he had raised his standards, and he had made his first $1 million that next year. So he went from $38,000 to $1 million. There might be some changes, I might be recalling that story a little bit wrong, but that's the spark notes. And so I think that had started us to talk about, you know, we're at a point in our lives where we can do a lot of these things where it's like we can make a move. Is it most responsible personal financial decision? Maybe not, but it started opening that door in our heads, right?
Yeah, we had this idea that to set a new standard. You know, like get a place that's out of your budget so that you stretch to make it your new life standard. To get a place that's financially out of your budget so that becomes the new normal for you. That's the lesson we learned.
So that was the catalyst to this conversation. I don't think we ended up there, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, we were looking at like really big penthouses and like massive apartments in Toronto
as like live workspaces. So to give you context, so it's like we were going from like we had essentially both of us had said this thing where it's like I don't want to go my whole life without living in a penthouse in Toronto in my 20s. I think both of us agreed that. It was like, well, yeah, like when else are you going to do it? You're not going to do it in your 40s. Like, and it's like, we're fucking in our 20s now. So if we don't want to go through we don't want to go through our 20s without living in a penthouse, then it's time. Like it was kind of, so we had started looking at penthouses, and we had seen some really amazing properties. We had seen, I think what our real estate agent said, it was like the largest 1-story penthouse in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, and we had looked at a couple other like really, really special spaces. I think that's the best way to describe them. You know, they weren't extravagant, but they were special. Like they were for people that were doing different things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it was, when you walked into those, it's like, this isn't for anybody. You know, this isn't for someone raising a family. It was for people. It was for special people.
It kind of scratched an itch, you know.
Yeah.
People want to know like what are the most awesome, cool places downtown Toronto.
Yeah, we saw them.
We told that to our real estate agent. We're like, find all those places.
Yeah, and when we had essentially the kind of calculation we had done was like take your rent, your personal rent, take my personal rent, and then take what we're willing to spend on an office and put it together. And like, well, we can get a fucking sick place.
Yeah.
And we had seen these places, and like I said, yeah. But I think a lot of those places weren't perfect for what we want. There was one that was perfect. Other than location, it was a beautifully converted old office building, and it was like a 2-story kind of like townhome converted. It was beautiful.
It was kind of like an event space. It had an 18-foot island in the kitchen. Like it was massive.
Yeah, it had a keg tap. One of the most amazing bathrooms I had ever seen. The kind of stuff where
it had a toilet where
I've got
when
like
you open the bathroom,
talking about it again.
Oh, maybe we should get it.
Let's get it.
So it had a bathroom where when you open the door, the toilet seat opens for you.
Yeah, like
which in an emergency that's actually pretty useful.
Yeah, it's almost a necessity. So we had started looking at these places, and then some other conversations had happened where we had decided, you know, there's probably a better mixed situation with us not living together. We do a lot of shit together. Like we travel together, we work together, we go to the gym together.
It's almost weird.
Yeah. And so I think that call was actually probably one of the best ones that made through this whole process, was like the call of like, hey, maybe there should be like separation. And so we had seen the place that we're sitting in now first on our hunt. And I would still say this is a special place.
Yeah. It just like the context of it didn't seem special at the time
because we were looking at these crazy places that were supposed to support you and I living, and an office space, and
for 4 companies,
and room to grow for 4 companies. Like so we had seen this place, and then it was backed up. And I mean, for me, when I had seen this place, I was in love with it. Like it checked every box that I wanted it to check. You know. It was by the water. Like there's so many things that it checked for me. High ceiling, everything like that.
Well, yeah. I hope that this doesn't sound pretentious.
It's not,
because the way that you and I were looking at it wasn't that we wanted a space that would impress people. Although I'm sure there's subconscious things where we're like, you know, the reason that we're aiming for something this high is because we want people to look at it and say it's awesome. But both you and I think look at spaces like, you know, we want our life to be a certain way. We're trying to optimize our lifestyle. And what kind of space is going to be the most comfortable where we're not limited by a space, you know? So if there's something that we want to do, like bounce on trampolines in the morning, that we have space to do it, you know?
We've got the ceilings for it. There's So, and I think the space offers a lot of that. Yeah. And it's still being built out. There's still like so much that needs to be done, but it's been fun doing it. And so I think that was a roundabout way of talking about what my biohack is. So anyway, let's give people context. So like right now we're kind of in the Foreplay HQ. The Foreplay HQ is the home of multiple companies. It is also the place where I live, and it's actually quite separated from where I live realistically. I mean, I wake up about 5 a.m. every day, and I don't really go to my bedroom, you know, until about 9. So it's like it's very in terms of the space and the way it's laid out, I'm very separated from home. And so talking about where I'd come from doing homework, then to office work, and now something it's almost a little bit of a hybrid. I realized I think I've found really what I really enjoy, and it is that hybrid where I think the reason why homework may have not been working for me is I just needed more space. And I might say in a year that I just need more space. And I think that's going to, maybe that'll just be something throughout my whole life. I just always need more space. But I think right now I have a good separation. It's almost one of those things where, I mean, this is my first time living alone, without a roommate. but it doesn't feel like that, if that makes sense. Like I was when we had started talking about living separately, I was apprehensive because I was like, the way I look at it is like I have my whole life to live alone. And so it's like I kind of want to live the years where it's okay to live with someone, if that makes sense, you know? Yeah. That's the way I was looking at it. So I was kind of like I was apprehensive to move in alone. So I was like, I don't know if I want to move in alone yet, because like I can just do that for the rest of my life. It was like there's a certain age where I feel like living with a roommate becomes
it's still okay.
It's still okay for me to live with a roommate. And so
like
I wanted to take full advantage of all the things that came with that. And I feel like I still get that. Like I'm seeing you every day. I'm seeing other people that are coming into the office to work every day. So I feel like I'm getting that connection with people and like and being able to share a space with people. But at the same time, I also get like a nice amount of seclusion after the workday is done, and then the ability to live my life the way I want to. So I think in terms of where I'm at right now, I'm outrageously happy.
So tell us what you've done with your bathroom.
Okay, so I hate clutter. Like I'm not the cleanest person, and I let stuff get cluttered, but I fucking hate clutter. And so for the longest time, the one thing that drives me insane is when people have like soap bottles in their shower, just like sitting. I think it's the ugliest thing. And I also hate packaging. For someone that loves design and loves branding, I fucking hate packaging. Like in the kitchen, I take the label off the mayonnaise jar, like all these kinds of things, because I just don't see the value in it. Like, I take all of my personal care products and I put them in little squirt bottles from Muji, like that Japanese company. So there's no branding on everything. And I honestly don't know what has like driven this. It's kind of like I started doing it for certain things and it's kind of escalated. And so for the longest time,
do you think that it clears your attention? Not seeing the branding and the colors and the imagery and
know what it is like whenever I look at branding or color and imagery, this is actually very interesting. So like when I wanted to be a filmmaker, I couldn't watch movies anymore.
Okay.
Because I could never enjoy them because I would be watching these movies being like, how do they do that? And I was really into visual effects. So I'd be like, how are they doing this shot? How are they doing this? Like how long did it take for this shoot date? Like I was unpacking this movie in my head whenever I was watching them. And I think now that my intention is driven way more into design and branding and image, and I'm unpacking this live right now as you like gave me that prompt. I think that might be a version of that where if I look at a design of a package, I'm like, I could have done that better. Or I would look at it as this is better than I could have ever done. Like whatever that thought might be.
So it does kind of lead you down
a thought path. Yeah. And I think some of those paths of thoughts are great, but I think 100%, I think your little comment has maybe clarified this for me. It's that day to day, I don't want those thoughts. I want to be focusing on what I'm working on. I don't want to be distracted. And so that might be what it is. But because I do have like a little bit of an OCD about this. And so what that's led to is like, I wanted pumps in my shower. I wanted soap pumps. Okay. I didn't want bottles
Which
in my shower.
Which I think is a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
The bottle is just so inconvenient. You got to squirt. If you want your shampoo, you take it off the shelf.
You got to bend over in the shower if it's on the ground.
Yeah, and then you got to like once it's in your hand, you got to close it with a part of your wrist, and then you're putting it back on the shelf, and like it doesn't.
It's not a great experience, and honestly, personal care products have horrible design. And so I spent like 4 hours, I swear to God, looking at the best pumps. I didn't want it to feel like I was in a corporate gym. I didn't want plastic. I wanted like something that was metal, but
pump as in like a canister.
A canister that's like on the wall
attached to the
that
wall
you put your products into
soap.
And you can pump out like if you're at the gym. But I wanted something that felt premium. Like as I've gotten older, I think back to and today we ran past my old apartment, and I think about some of the things that I had in that old apartment, or like the way I would have done things in that old apartment. It makes me cringe. But I think as I've gotten older, I've got such an appreciation for really good products and really good tactile feeling, and really like everything in your life is a fucking experience. So you might as well make it a good one. Yep. Like that's where I'm kind of at right now. And so like this is another thing. I take cold showers too, so it's like I want to be efficient, Like I don't want anything in between me and just having a shower. And so for me, like what I ended up buying were these it was from a brand called Simple Human. They're aluminum, but you can see which product is each.
It's a great brand name.
Yeah. They make a lot of stuff for Bed Bath & Beyond.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they might have a partnership or it's an internal brand or something. But yeah, that's what I landed on. It was a triple pump, so I got shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and so I'm gonna so I was looking at some cheaper options, but the one, and this is something to say about product design, is that sometimes it's just that one extra little like you do one more kind of thing. It had a hanger for a razor, like a little hook to put your razor, and that took me from looking at like $50 to $60 pumps to where I ended up was like the $110 range of pumps.
You spent $110.
$110 on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
On all three.
All
so you have
three.
3 pumps.
Three pumps. It was a triple.
And so trip pump.
It was a trip pump. So I'm happy. I'm so happy with it. The only thing that it hasn't now that I'm looking at it is that there's every once in a while, if I want to shave my body, which I do, I have to bring in shaving cream to the shower.
You need a 4 pump.
I needed a 4th pump, but I also don't know like how you put shaving cream. These are shaving cream I use is in an aerosol can. So I don't know if there was maybe there would be a different product switch up there if I had a 4th pump, but I don't know if I would have liked the 4th pump. I like odd numbers, especially in design.
Okay.
A triangle is much more beautiful of a shape than a square.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would have been happy with the 4th pump, and it's one of those things where I don't use shaving cream every day, so why would it be in the shower every day?
Okay.
That's the way I'm justifying
I think it's a little bit of a telling feature that you shave your
my
whole
arms.
body.
I don't
You're
shave
like
my
a seal.
Well, I have facial hair. I'm like a seal.
That's the only hair that you leave. Okay, but I think it's kind of interesting because everything is like a design aesthetic, you know, and hair is kind of something that's unintentional. It just grows
for sure.
So everything, the small things left in most people's lives, you've stripped away. So like the mayonnaise branding, the hair that doesn't that's there, but you didn't intend it to be there.
So like I mean, so the hair thing honestly is a completely an aesthetic choice.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't get here intentionally. I didn't decide to shave my arms one day. I didn't decide to shave my legs one day. But I got this tattoo. And when you get a tattoo, you have to shave. So I shaved. When I went, this was a very impromptu tattoo. And when I went into the shop, they shaved it for me. They shaved a square. And I got the tattoo, and then about 2 weeks later, looked at it on my arm, and there was no hair still growing back. And I was just like, well, this looks stupid. And so I decided to just shave my arms. Yeah. And I did that, and I took a step back, and I said, I like the way this looks. And I didn't. And then when it would start to grow back, I really didn't like the way that arm hair growing back decided to look. And then so I continued to shave my arms. And then from there, I was like, it looks kind of silly to have shaved arms and hairy legs.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so I did, and I mean, I still don't really shave my legs with a razor. I shave my legs with like an electric.
Yeah.
But
because once you're in the shower with like a razor and the foam on your legs, like it's crossing a line you can't come back from.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't need to be that smooth. But I mean, honestly, I do like the efficiency of drying off. When you dry a freshly shaved body, it's a lot better than a hairy body.
That's true. Hey man, I have the hairiest legs.
Oh yeah,
I have Grinch legs. Like once my hair grows on my knee, I have no knee anymore. It's just a bush, so I have to trim it. It would be irresponsible for me not to.
Yeah.
So I get the hair trimming thing. It's weird. It's like people can shave their face, they can cut their hair, but the second somebody touches their arm hair with a razor, it's like just frowned upon.
I think it's also the one thing that throws me off sometimes. I'll be with a woman, and if I put my arm beside hers,
and she has hairier arms,
and it happens often. It happens more often than not. Because most women don't shave their arms.
Yeah, they don't. I don't know why. Why don't they shave
I'm not saying that you need to shave your arms, girls, but it's one thing that throws me off. But I mean, but then it's I think we had the conversation a couple of days ago about just doing things differently.
Okay.
And I fucking get off on that feeling when people just realize that you do something that's different. Like I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it influences my decisions, but when I make decisions in that streamline, or what I don't know how to word that, but I enjoy them more. I enjoy the decisions that people are surprised by.
Yeah.
And so that's how I've kind of gotten over that. Is that people like, you shave your arms? But yeah, Why? Because I like it. Like and there's literally nothing else to it than that. Like
it just throws people through this mental loop of trying to make connections of like, why does he do it? And
right, especially because I feel like I'm also like, in terms of like the other things I do, like I'm a relatively masculine person, you know. Like I mean I am metro in a couple ways, but like in terms of like my hobbies and the things I do, I'm relatively masculine. So I think it really throws people off. Like I actually sent out a tweet the other day, and I was thinking through it, and I was like, I don't see people with toe rings anymore. And I sent out a tweet and I was like, I'm going to start wearing a toe ring just to really throw people off. And I feel like it'd be awesome. Like if you're at a beach club, like all this kind of stuff, and you're just wearing a toe ring, like, is that guy wearing a toe ring?
Meet that guy.
Yeah, we meet that guy, yeah. I don't know. I like it. It's fun. It's almost like I'm kind of playing on like everyone feels a need to put people into a box, you know. So I'm as much as I feel like I probably am someone that can be put into a box. In any way I can, I try to like at least do a couple things to throw them off, you know, to at least, if anything, start more of an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so. I think it's such a good
get some ice
idea. Yeah, get some ice, because so I heard this quote from, there's this random YouTube compilation of advice from billionaires, and I'm pretty sure that the YouTube link for that video is just advice from billionaires, and if you search it up, it's just this like random cut and paste from all these billionaires doing speeches. And there's this one from one of these richest guys in the world that does, he's been in the Forbes list and nobody knows him, one of those dudes. And it's a snippet of him saying, people always ask me advice for how I got here, and what I tell them is, just do things the way that other people don't do them. And it's like a very simple way of saying going against the grain, going against the herd. And like what you're kind of doing with like even the simple things of stripping mayonnaise labels off the jar, shaving arms, like although it's trivial and small seemingly, it's kind of like a habit of doing things the way other people don't do them. You know what I mean? And we were talking about this the other day, and I feel like it's such an important thing when it comes to business, especially with it being, you know, business the way it is, being so saturated. And
I actually had a conversation with one of my really, really close friends, like dear friends, the other day, like sitting right here, and it was that idea about doing something different, and it was the idea that no one ever if you think about the average of anything, no one ever wants that result. Most cases. There's some cases where the average sounds fucking great. Mm-hmm. You know, average income of someone like there's certain areas where it's okay. Okay.
But it's very small.
Very small. Most of the time when you take the average of anything, whether it's an outcome of anything, you don't want that. And so what causes an average? And it's that it's a group think. Everyone does something one way, and then that causes the average. Like the average is caused by the majority. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the way I've kind of always, and I unpacked this with her sitting like exactly right here. And what I had thought was, it was that unless you want average, then fucking do something completely different. Mm-hmm. Because if you're doing everything that anyone else is doing, mathematically you're going to end up at average. Yeah. It's what it's going to be. And so that, I mean, and having that conversation, I was like, holy shit, like that's almost like that's my thesis. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it is. It's that like nobody actually wants average. So then why is everybody doing what's going to bring them just directly? And like average isn't always bad, but it's not what you want, you know?
Yeah. So,
and that was quite an interesting, again, it was through a dialogue that we had got to that point, and I was just like, fuck yeah. Like fuck average. Average sucks. You get diagnosed with cancer. Do you ever the average life expectancy or whatever it is? It's like that fucking sucks. Yeah. You know, like average salary. Well, you can't live on that. Like average like all that average divorce rate. Like, well, that fucking sucks. So it's like, well, how are you going to do it differently, right? Like if the average divorce rate sucks, then you probably shouldn't do marriage like everybody else, or you shouldn't. There's a lot of things you can unpack with that, but I want everything but average. So I think, you know, and I don't think that me taking the label off of mayonnaise is going to do anything in my life that is going to put me ahead of anyone else. But it's a way of thinking. And I think that's the idea, is that if you decide you know, one area of your life, or, you know, in general you don't want to be average, well then you might as well go fucking all in on it, you know?
I don't know, man. I think the Take the Label Off the Mayo could be a book title.
Yeah.
Like maybe an autobiography by Zach Murray, Take the Label Off the Mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, doing things not the average. There's like, I really think you build a habit by doing the small things that aren't the average. It's like, you know, where do you start with that? You give somebody such a general big piece of advice. It's the hard part of that is where do you start?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the little things, you know?
Right.
What do you do when you're alone? That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
What do people do when they're alone? I feel like that.
Fuck, man. Like, we had this conversation about someone the other day where we're like, I would love to be a fly on the wall in their life.
Yeah.
You know?
When they're on their own.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
There's some people you can't unpack. And I think if you were to talk to everybody in our lives and you were to try to say, what do they do? Like, it's still some of my closest friends from back home don't really know what I do day to day. And they have no reason of figuring that out. So it's interesting because I think it's what you do when you're alone that matters way more than what you do when people are way more.
Yeah. Okay. So we got off on massive tangents.
Huge tangent.
But we hit a bit of biohacking.
Hit a little biohacking.
Yeah. We talked about sleep. We talked about kind of optimizing your space a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we talked about what you're doing with your lotion, shampoo, and conditioner in the bathroom.
The pumps, yeah.
The pumps. Which I really like your pump situation, and I feel like you should post a picture on your Instagram with the pumps.
The pumps,
yeah, and then maybe you'll get some referral points. From
maybe I'll get like a little bit of a sponsorship from Simple Human.
Yeah, because I really like the pumps. I feel like that's a really good hack.
It is
for your
life.
Just put some pumps in your bathroom, man.
It looks
that's
so fucking nice, guys. Like, it looks so nice.
Yeah, it does look nice.
It looks so nice.
Post that pic on Insta. Let people see it.
Let people know where the pumps are.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: it's out in the world, out in the ether now with the podcast. But are the pumps better of a surprise? Like, if let's just say, for example, I'm spending time with a woman. She hasn't been back to my place yet. She comes back to my place, and she realizes the pumps. I feel like the pumps might be a better surprise than they are out, like a shade. Like, is that something you introduce yourself with?
The pumps.
The pumps, and if I put it on my Instagram, then it's out. It's totally public. Mm-hmm. You know, like if someone right now, someone's got to listen to us speak for about 30 minutes before they hear about the pumps. But an Instagram post, that's pretty public. And I don't want to take the pumps are fucking valuable. The pumps mean something. And I don't know if I I don't
want to give it away.
I don't know if I want to give. But here, listen, Simple Human, if you want to sponsor me, outfit.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you what's wrong with my place right now. I don't know what you guys do in terms of products, but the faucet sucks. I need a better drawer organizer so I don't like having clutter on my bathroom counter. So I like having a module piece that I can bring out in and out. So I need a better thing with that. Like, right now when I pull it out, all the things move. Like, I have all those like little like squirt bottles and they all fall over. So like if there was like there was something with sections, that would be good. Trying to think what else that. Honestly, bath mats always throw me off.
What about the hand soap? That's something that's always bugged me when somebody has a dish and then there's like a bar of soap
that's
in the
gross.
Dish.
That's gross. Yeah. People might think this is gross. I don't use hand soap.
How are you sanitizing your hands?
I don't. Like, I honestly don't. Like, I'm the worst hand washer.
I saw you touch these ice cubes before they went to drink.
Yeah, I'm totally a rinse your fucking fingertips kind of guy.
Okay, this is a good topic because I've always rebelled against the hand washing.
You're a rebellion hand washer?
I'm an anti-hand washer too. If there's no one in the bathroom, I'm not washing my hands. I'm washing my hands mainly because there's other people in the bathroom.
Dude, 100%. Like, I like to get the fingertips wet.
Okay.
All right.
Whatever you're doing with your fingertips, we'd all like to hear about it.
But then also, who the fuck dries their hands in a hand dryer or uses one of those things? Like, I'm like
they
pants
take too
guy.
long.
I'm a pants guy. Tossing the pants.
On the pants.
On the pants.
Yeah.
You don't need to, like, okay, so I had one of my previous relationships, I met a girl that had the same thought as us. And I was just like, fuck yeah.
Should have married her.
Well, thanks. But it was just like, fuck yeah. Like, honestly, like, we're going into a public bathroom where you're going to be grabbing a handle on your way out where who knows what they did with their hand. Like, if anything, I've got a better immune system. I've been building this shit for years. And listen, and if I go traveling and there's not soap in the bathroom, I'm fucking good. You know? But listen, all you hand washers out there, here's what's going to happen. You guys are going to go to Indonesia, and you're going to get to a bathroom where they don't got hand soap.
Yeah.
And listen, you don't have the built up, you don't have the built up immune system that I've got. I'm a specimen.
10, 15, 20 years not washing your hands.
Listen, I wash my hands. I wash the tip. I just wash the fingertips.
Just the tip.
I like the tactile, and then in the pants, and then out of the place.
Okay. Yeah, I don't wash my hands.
I'm glad we're on the same page with that.
I wash them, but I think it's a less percentage. I wash my hands less than I don't wash my hands more than I do wash my hands.
Okay, good.
Yeah, when I'm in and out of a public restroom. But I don't touch the handle. Who touches the handle? I'm usually pushing the door open or I'm body checking it. You know, there's no reason to have to grip the disgusting handle in a public bathroom. So yeah, I don't do that.
Also, your public bathroom, you sit on the toilet seat, right?
I don't sit on the
You
toilet
don't
seat.
sit on the toilet seat?
Wait, if you're pooping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sit.
No, I put a little paper towel.
Oh,
nest
you're one
down.
of those fucking okay.
You sit on the
You're
toilet seat?
fancy. Listen, I'm in the bathroom. I'm breathing shit in with nothing's gonna happen from me sitting on the toilet seat. I don't sit if there's shit and piss on the toilet seat, but I am not gonna lay out some toilet paper. No, absolutely
dude,
not.
You're missing out on building the skill of the nesting.
I don't need the skill. I don't need the skill.
Okay, I went to a bathroom one time. I think it was in China or it was Japan or something. And they had dispensers with toilet seat cutouts of paper towel that you just pull and place down on the toilet seat. Yeah.
I think my grandmother used to travel with those in her purse.
Well, your grandmother's a classy woman.
Yeah, Pat, shout out. Shout out to Pat.
Shout out to Pat. Use code Pat at checkout. No, I don't.
We're definitely in the
sit on
bullshit category
toilet
right now.
Yeah,
We're talking
probably for the most part.
Yeah.
Build your immune system. Don't wash your hands. Questionable if you should lay down a paper towel nest, if you should build a throne, or if you should sit right on the ceramic seat.
You don't ever lick your ass, but you lick your fingers if you're having a good meal.
I lick other people's asses, and I would appreciate if they lit down a net. Put down a nest.
All right.
I hope my mom's not going to listen.
Anybody
to this,
wants to get their ass
eaten,
DM.
I'm sorry, Colleen, if you're listening to this.
At Shane
I don't
Peterson.
actually eat ass.
We're getting a little loose.
Maybe
here.
we should stop at eating ass and go to a different topic.
I don't think I want to reveal that. Yeah.
Okay, so we did some biohacking. We did some bullshit. Let's talk about business.
Talk about business. Fuck yeah, I love business.
Yeah, business is
the best. You know why? Because people have an idea of what business is, but it's the fucking opposite of what business is.
Okay.
You know? Hey,
preach,
guys.
That.
Hey, guys that went to business school. You don't know what business is.
Okay.
It's not what you do. Straight up. Like, it's not. Like 90% of business isn't what you guys do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay, so what do you think is the number one thing that people have in their head about what they think business is that isn't true?
I think people think business is like so much structure and infrastructure and things that had come before them and rules and all. It's the fucking complete opposite of that.
So what is it?
It's innovation. It's doing things differently. At least the business that gets me going, you know, it's not, for me, the business that gets me going isn't finding a 2% margin in this weird industry where we can buy up a bunch of stuff or like acquire a bunch of shit and then sell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like those, like, fuck that. That's just numbers. That's math. That's not business. Business is creating something that people are going to love. Business is creating something that a business that you can now, you can give to another business that accelerates them. You know, it is creating waves. It is creating something that if you do it, it's going to continue to ripple after you have done whatever piece is that is your business, you know? That's what I think it is. It's creating impact, and if it's good impact, bad impact, whatever it is, it's creating something that once you do your part, it continues to go. That's what business is. It's not a transaction at all. And if anything, I think we're so, like, I'm so lucky, or I think I'm so lucky for like the generation that I was able to grow up in, because the barrier to entry for business is so low.
It's so low. It's nothing, pretty
It's
much.
pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
And
It's a $30 Shopify monthly fee.
or whatever it is. Like there's so many.
It's the cost it takes to start a YouTube channel.
It's the cost it takes. Like if you look at even more traditional types of businesses, like the kind of shit like my brother's doing, like washing windows, soap, water, and a squeegee. Like it's taking it. I had heard this quote that was such an elegant way of defining what entrepreneurship is, and I use it like all the time. And it's taking a resource of low economic value and bringing it to a place where it's a resource of high economic value, or bringing a resource or a talent or a skill or a product to a place where it's worth more than where you brought it from.
It's arbitrage.
And it's an arbitrage. And it could be your time. So you take your time and you learn a new skill, and that transforms it into an area of where now it's worth capital. And in business, also, it's not about money. I think both of us are straight up, we love money. Money fucking rocks. But that's not why we do business. It's for like freedom and you know what I'm saying? Like it's a feeling that we're doing it for more than we're doing it for a number. Like I don't get off on numbers. I don't understand numbers. I don't know where we were going with that.
Yeah, we were defining business.
Defining business. And so I think that I feel like the one I had the example I had laid out, such an elegant way of doing it. You're taking something that has no value and you're putting your twist on it to the point where now it has value. That's it. It's super simple. That's all you got to do.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think for some people it comes instinctual and some people it doesn't. I mean, what you brought up in terms of it being a very low cost entry into being able to do business. Nowadays, you have people that say they're in the business for themselves that, perhaps don't understand what they're doing. And, it's kind of interesting because I think you started into freelancing at a young age. And I think freelancing breaks down business to its fundamentals. Yeah. Because somebody's paying you to do something for them. So
at the end of the day, freelancing is also, it's kind of just working. It becomes a business when you add in processes and systems that now multiply your time. Until you're doing that, you're just working. And I think that's again another complete episode about how to transform a freelance business into now a business. And it's something that, if it took me 4 years looking back in retrospect, like for those 4 years, I thought that I was doing business, but there was a specific time where I'm like, okay, now I'm multiplying my time. I'm not just servicing people. And then that became the arbitrage, right?
Yeah. I heard, I was at a seminar. I think it was Rockstar real estate seminar, and they were talking about the phases that they went through in business, and then they were kind of saying like when you're a one-man operation, there is kind of like a universal bottleneck. There's a universal level you can hit, which they thought was about like $250,000 a year. It's like you can bring that much value on your own,
like revenue,
which I think defines business very well. It's just bringing value to another person and then them compensating you for it. I think that's probably a good definition at the fundamentals. So, you have, some sort of capacity on your own to bring that value. And then, at some sort of financial cap, you could define it by, then you need more people to help you with that. So
I think that's a good transition. Listen, I get, like we said at the beginning, a lot of people watching right now are people that know us. It's probably going to be your parents, it's probably going to be your friends, probably people, things
just
like that.
my mom.
Just your mom.
Colleen,
what's up, Colleen?
Use Colleen at checkout. I like that joke. I keep
use Colleen at checkout.
I've been wanting to do it for so long. I listen to so many podcasts, and they use the thing at checkout, and I want to do it.
But yeah, I think it's a good spot. Let's transition. So I think let's do the bios.
Okay.
And I think it's always interesting hearing a bio from someone because it's always more modest than it will ever be from coming from someone else.
Yeah.
Or here's an idea.
Or overinflated.
Here's an idea. Or it's overinflated. I feel like neither of us will fall in an overinflated area. But maybe here's an idea of, listen, hey, those are some Those are some heavy pours on the rum. Let's do the reverse.
You want to do each other's bios?
Let's do each other's
No,
bios.
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but
let's do each other's bios. Because I feel like last time it was like, I think you had a lot, especially like when we were talking about this, you had a lot of apprehension of like a lot of things you should say.
Yeah.
And so let's break through all of it, and we'll do each other's bios.
Okay.
And this is on the spot.
All right. I gotta pee though.
Okay, well you can pee. This is a
How
classic.
does this not happen more in the long form podcast?
This is a classic Joe Rogan thing.
Like
You got to pee in the podcast.
Like, I'm not gonna hold this
you
for like.
check
an
the
hour
time.
and a
It's
half.
down there. We can't see it here.
Okay.
Check the time
What are you
on.
gonna talk about when I'm gone though? Why don't you talk about how you're optimizing?
The space here.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Let's do that. Like,
All right,
like
we
I
can
think I put in a good amount of rules here.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
go
right.
pee. Go. Okay, so like we were saying, we've got this space, and it is. What are we? We're an hour in. All right, sweet. What's up, guys? Okay, so anybody who's still on this podcast, thank you. You're an hour in. So okay. So how I'm optimizing the space? Essentially, this space it's a very large 2-bedroom condo with a den. It's very large. In terms of square footage, it's way more than what we need. But we're looking at it as a way to optimize and enable us to do stuff. So, in terms of the way that I'm trying to transition from doing homework to then office work and then now back to homework, I've set up very strict rules for myself on what I'm allowed to do in every room. And so to my right here is our main office space, and that's the second bedroom. And so in that room, I mean, there is times when we break the rules, but essentially it's like in that room, work is only being done. No YouTube videos, no anything like that. Like if you're going into this room, you're going into it to push your business forward, push something what you're doing for. Like you're going in there to be productive. You're not going in there to be entertained. In terms of the open area we're in right now, which is like our living room, we have this nice large table to work out with a bunch of people. This is a very flux space. So this is sometimes where I have breakfast. This is where I do my journaling in the morning. This is where we have the podcast. For now, we've got a den back there, which will eventually be the podcast room. And then we've got my bedroom. And so my bedroom is, completely separated from everything else. And so like the rules I had set up was that, and there is some times when I just go to use the bathroom or bedroom and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of like when you leave your bedroom for the morning, dressed and ready to go, you don't return to it until you're ready to go to bed. Not even like, okay, you come home from work and now you can go to your bedroom. It's like my bedroom is for like sleeping, getting ready in the morning, and then entertaining special guests. That's about it. And so I think that was quick. You got a quick pee. That's the spark notes of how I'm optimizing
Let me
the space.
not stop you at the special guests. Let's hear more about them.
We don't need to hear about special guests.
Okay, we'll move on.
Yeah. A lot of windows here, and we've got another condo behind us, which we got good blinds here, but you have to remember to...
Maybe we'll get some guests. Maybe people will see us recording a podcast in here.
Be
There's
like,
probably
hey,
some
let's get
interesting
over
people
here.
in this building.
Yeah. There honestly, there is. That's been one thing that, like, just even walking around here day to day, compared to my other building, so my other building was, very much in the heart of downtown. Kind of like right by the Rogers Center, right by the Air Canada Center. And you'd think that area would be somewhere that would attract, I don't know, interesting individuals, or at least individuals that were doing things that would be interesting to us. Mm-hmm. It was the complete opposite. It was people working at banks, and they were only working there, or they were only living there because it was the shortest walk to their bank job. And so just looking at the difference between, and I think right now, like where I'm living is more of a luxury condo. It's it's more. I feel like we have actual penthouses here, all this kind of stuff. So it's higher net worth individuals living in this area, and it's just interesting seeing the contrast of that. Like living at the other place, it was people would leave at 8 a.m., look miserable, and they'd come, and then they'd come back at 5. Look miserable. No one would ever be leaving to go anywhere other than like it. You'd never see anybody leaving looking like you're going somewhere on like an adventure or like to do something, or it was always like they were going to do something they didn't want to do. Whereas here, I mean, we don't see as many people here because it is a smaller complex. But like when you see someone, you're like, I would talk to you. Like I would like to talk to you. You look like an interesting person. I think that's just like a note. I don't think we need to dive too deep into that. But so you peed, you're all good to go on the bio. I think how are we going to choose who goes first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've only known you for, I think it's under a year.
Is it under a year?
Maybe a little bit over.
No, because we would have done those. We would have done those videos early summer, right?
Okay, maybe a little bit over a year. Maybe like a year and a few months.
But not really known each other. Like we didn't really know each other at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
I know you as at that point I had known you as much as I know all of my clients, right? Like,
so we met each other. You were doing a Fit Escapes video.
So shooting a travel fitness video.
Okay.
For one of my friends, Cassie, who we're gonna have on the podcast.
Okay.
And I had met your business partner, Misha.
Yeah, you met Misha on that trip, and at the time, we were looking for a videographer to do a yoga class how-to kind of series, so somebody who could film that for us. So Misha and I, a little bit of backstory, started a company called Namasthetics 2016. I think it was November 2016, back in the day. It feels so long ago. I think it was like 3 years ago now. So we started that company 3 years ago, and we're looking for somebody to create some cool content that will engage our customer base beyond just buying some pants from us. And she had recommended you to record some videos of some intro yoga classes for us. So that's how we initially met, which is kind of funny because you always kind of bring it back to this was a very serendipitous meeting between the two of us. So you weren't meant to go on this trip as I understand it.
Not at all.
You were brought in at the last minute by Cassie.
And so we were actually supposed to have Cassie here today.
Yeah.
Cassie, let's just put a bookmark in. One of the greatest people I know.
Yeah.
Straight up, one of the best people I know. Humans across the board, best.
Both her and her boyfriend.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
both.
Shout out to Cassie and Jameek.
Jameek makes a great burger.
Great burger.
Yeah.
And so Cassie has this company called Fit Escapes, who I got introduced to again serendipitously. Like we'll dive into that when we have Cassie on the podcast.
Yeah.
But so let's just say I know Cassie, and so I had filmed for one of she runs this fitness retreat company called Fit Escapes, and it's again you go away, you get fit, like you do workouts, you eat healthy, you kind of work on yourself. There's some self development in it. It's a great time, and so I had filmed one of her retreats to make like a promo video, and they were going to Tulum, Mexico, and Cassie was kind of like on and off on whether I was going to come to film and create a video for this one. So I had done one in the past, and it turned out like this year we're not doing it. And then I was actually in the sauna, and I'd come out of the sauna, I looked at my phone, and Cassie had gone to Tulum, and I had a text from her being like a text and like 2 calls, and I text her, I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, you have to come. She's like, it's beautiful here. We want a video. We have an extra room. Come. And this is a Friday night. I'm in the sauna. And I'm with my buddy, and I'm just like, man, like I felt kind of like stuck, and I had recently just kind of just like met, some relationships have been tossed up. I felt like I needed a vacation, and then this happened, and then I'd also just really wanted to go, and so I'm like, all right, Cassie, I'll be there in a day. And I think I got the text on Friday, and I had left on Saturday or Sunday to Mexico, flew to Mexico, and had a great time. Met Misha. And I mean, Misha and her fiance, I don't know if they were engaged at the time, Costa. Yeah. We adventured around, and I mean, we had a really good time together. And so
sounds like Tulum, Mexico is an awesome place to go see.
It was great, man. Like it was really good. Like I really want to go back. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mexico is such a mainstream place for Canadians and Americans to go visit, but it sounds like Tulum is like out of the norm of it just being
so
resorts.
Different. You can bike around. It feels like a North American beach town.
Yeah. Anyway, so we met on this.
So that's why I'm on this trip, and I met your business partner Misha, and then we jammed about a year ago at a coffee shop, I think.
Right, and she said that she wanted to shoot some stuff with you.
Yeah.
And we started jamming because we both liked surfing.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to Bali, and you had recently been, so started jamming right off the bat. And I think it was you had an idea for a kind of different company. You had a business idea that you proposed to me over text. You had said something like, I have this issue where I always have a cardboard thing of gum in my pocket and it always gets squished. And do you have any experience?
This might, but did I ever propose to you the hair care company?
Maybe.
The motorcycle hair product? Maybe I didn't.
No, you did, because we met at a cafe to talk about the yoga videos, and you'd brought that up.
Right.
So you had expressed to me an interest about starting something in the e-commerce space.
Right. Again, so I think background too is like I've been running a client service creative agency for 5 years at this point. Doing design, web development, animation, everything, all creative kind of aspects. And then we had started jamming. And again, when I'm doing this as like a business, building this business, the long-term goal for me has always been create products, sell them, do business, don't do client services. Like I was doing client services because that's just a lot of the things I had done in my life had led me to do that. But I think my mind was always consumed by business outside of client services. I think that's just and then I'll let you
caveat.
Yeah.
So we had kind of met back at the coffee shop. You had expressed some interest in e-commerce, and you messaged me about an idea as it relates to gum being squished in your pockets. You'd asked me if I had any experience manufacturing metals in China, which is a great way to start a conversation with somebody. And I said that I did. At the time, I had a company that we had recently started making jewelry in China. So I said I did, and we met over an idea of, I want some sort of canister or metal contraption that people can use to refill their gum, which I think people could see coming from the mayonnaise situation. But you had an idea for some sort of like refillable metal container to put gum into.
It was the idea that I wanted a sleeve that was aluminum.
So that's an intro to like another whole business idea that we have. So anyway, we had kind of started around with some e-commerce ideas, and that's how we kind of met. I think meeting you, I knew that we had a lot of similar interests. I had been in e-commerce for something like 2 years at that point, and a lot of the sticking points that e-commerce has for anybody that's just getting into this space without any real experience, I realized that you had some interesting skill traits in. So, anybody starting in e-commerce probably realizes that there's, a lot of ads that need to be created, a lot of, creatives in video and static imagery that need to be done. That I saw that you had a ton of experience doing pictures and video content for different brands. And it was something that took a lot of time for me, where I'm like, if I had somebody that as a potential partner who knew how to do all this stuff and was good at it, that it would really accelerate e-commerce in the early phases. So I think that's kind of like what got me interested in potentially working with you as an e-commerce partner. And you had a good idea around this gum company, and so we started combining forces into creating something.
Yeah.
And we had kind of experimented with a few different e-commerce brands at the time, but I think this is transitioning into me trying to sell you to somebody else, which I kind of like. So I think as a person, you're very design focused, which works really well for creating products, and you pay special attention to the way things are made, which I don't think is that common, and which was something that I thought we could relate to very early on, where things that people overlook, you and I could both take a look at something and say like, this could be made better, or the design sucks but the functionality is there. So I think the early on conversations we had were walking through stores and seeing like, this product could be made better than that, and we had some complementary skills that led into what we're doing now. So in terms of like a biography for you, it sounds like you had some entrepreneurial ventures as a young guy. Yeah. Back in high school, you're doing freelance design, 16, 17 years old, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of did some creative stuff, and then you're doing some client services stuff around animations. Yeah. You were doing some video content and things like that, creative work for bigger brands.
I essentially had created this company called Vanquished Media. And the only reason I called it Vanquished is because I wanted an Aston Martin Vanquish. And I was like, I like that name. Let's do it up. And I needed a name for whatever I was doing. And like I said, like whenever I was doing anything, it was always for like a long-term goal. So I always named everything that I did. I never put it under a personal brand. I always named it as something that could be bigger than myself. And like I said, like I went away to university, dropped out after 2 years, and then went full-time in the business. And in going full-time in the business, I was looking for, the best. Again, because I was looking for something larger, I was just looking for the best ROI of my time. And animation for software companies became that. And so like Vanquish Media still does a ton of software animation, and also animation for other types of businesses, but software is like our main kind of like vertical. And we still do that. So then again, like that's kind of what has allowed me to take a step back in my early 20s, which I feel like a lot of people don't have the opportunity to. A lot of people, they finish school, then they're looking for a job. Whereas like I kind of like, I was in school, had a business, decided to take a leap, was able to make a good living for about 2 years doing animation,
like freelance
type of animation. But also like, again, like this is where I made that transition of doing freelance to your business with processes. And so like I was multiplying my time. I was putting in processes to making animations go quick, like all this kind of. So it's like I was making more than a freelance animator because I had put in processes to create a business. And so that was like the kind of little bit of like, that was the little area where I was doing really, really well with that. And then I honestly, it was a little bit of burnout.
So you were in high school, you were doing graphic freelance designs for companies. And then you had joined a program at Ryerson, and you were in that for a short amount of time before dropping out to start your own business. So I'm interested to hear why, like what were the variables or thought patterns that led you into quitting university at kind of a young age and then going into business for yourself?
So I mean, I was at the point of dropping out of university. I had a good client base. I had one specific project that was just paying me straight up every month.
Okay.
And I was in a spot where I could not get the courses I wanted to take anymore. Like there was an inflection point where I was just like, I'm paying money for university and I'm not even learning the things I want to learn. So like, let's just take a step back and let's just let my mind go wild for a bit. And then again, I was also very confident that, and I don't know where the confidence came from. Maybe we can unpack it in like in a future episode. But it was like I was just so confident that even if I left school, I could make more money than everybody else.
So you could see the value that you could bring other people early on.
Yeah, it was kind of just like I can just figure it out. Like it was almost one of those things where everyone was. I felt like no one else had seen the light. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that from a way that feels, again, pretentious or braggy. But it was like when I'd have conversations with people that they weren't connecting all of the dots. And that could be mean that I'm just crazy, but I looked at it as a way that they just don't see all the fucking dots. And it was it was one of those things where I was in a creative field where people don't look at those kind of things. But then I was also, when I look at like all the content I had consumed early on in life and all the things I thought I wanted to be, I was consuming a bunch of business stuff. So I was pulling from this business end and then pulling from this creative services end. And then I think whatever that mixed together inside of me was just like, let's just go for it. And it led to amazing opportunities and a lot of great things. And I made a lot of things over a couple of years that I'm really, really proud of.
So I see it as kind of like an eye for practicality, where I think a lot of people in that space of creativity and production don't have an eye for the value that it brings or the practicality that it has in reality. And so maybe you had some little spark of sitting on the connection between creativity and business that allowed you to see, some sort of path that nobody else could see, which I would say is pretty telling and pretty accurate for the kind of person that you are. Is somebody that can merge like a creativity perspective mixed with like what's the actual value that this would bring somebody or a brand or a company or something like that. I think that's a good way of kind of encompassing your mindset and who you are as a person. And a lot of people like a lot of people in my network, a lot of friends of mine that have met you or hear about you are always like flabbergasted by how young you are. You know,
it's been honestly like a very common thing through my whole life, and I don't know what caused it. There's a couple of very specific times when you say that, it just sparked my mind where it's like people who I really look up to were like, wait, oh, you're just like, you're this age. And I feel like so much of it is just, I never paid attention to it. The things you don't pay attention to become the things that don't matter. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the things you pay attention to are the things that become very, very important. So I very much, I was focused on making money and learning things. And those became the things that were the two things that essentially paid me and also allowed me to live, a life very early on in my life that I was very proud of, honestly. Not satisfied, but very proud of. And the thing I never, ever, ever paid attention to was my age. If anything, I was so grateful when people thought I was older than who I was. Whereas I think so often people can think I'm too young, and people say that to me, and therefore I'm less. Like it's almost like it's a limiting belief. Whereas like I just never paid attention to it. I never paid attention because I didn't think it fucking mattered. Like it might have been a little bit of a cockiness early on in my 17, 18-year-old range where I was just like, I had mentors where I could see their businesses slipping, and I was just like, I could do better. You know, it might have been a accumulation of a lot of things, but I never paid attention to how old I was. I never did. If someone asked me, I would shift. It was just something I never paid attention to it, and I think that's why it became so irrelevant in my life. And I'm really happy that. I don't look at that as something that I manifested at all. I look at it as something I was just, I lucked out on. And that my mindset took me in a direction that I didn't care about how old I was or how much experience I had.
I think that you have a passion for, not only is this something that I enjoy, but it's something I can see other people enjoying.
Right.
You know, whether it be some sort of product or a video or something like that's really the difference between somebody who is, you know, creative and can see things differently versus somebody who makes an actual impact with some of those things. I think it's a connection between, it's something that's different and cool, but that a lot of other people would see it that way. You know, I guess that would be, you know, how I see your mentality being.
Cool. I feel like that gives a good circle.
That was a terrible circle, dog.
That was a very drawn out circle, but I mean, I think it brought open a lot of things. So I mean, I think if we were to give the spark notes on this, known each other for about a year, kind of connected very early on, and I honestly remember when I was in Tulum, Misha being like, "You need to meet my business partner. You're exactly like him." Like I remember her saying that
really?
when we were on a bike ride.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then obviously, like when we shot for Namaesthetics, I was like, oh, he's like making products. This is really cool. Because like I always kind of just wanted to make products, but all I did was make videos and design and stuff, you know. And so for me, it was just always just being like very, very curious and stuff. And I was always curious about any business. And yeah, so I think it gave us, in terms of spark notes, it's like, yeah, we know about each other for about a year, connect very early on with like a couple of very fundamental business practices and ideas about what matters. And then from there, it's kind of just been like, I feel like whenever we throw out an idea, it's never judged ever. If you throw out an idea, I never judge it. I throw out an idea, you never judge it. So it's like, it's always just like, we really fucking unpack everything. And so I think that's been valuable throughout everything. And so I think
it's pretty key as business partners to be able to just throw an idea on the table and not attach yourself with the outcome of that idea.
For sure.
Like, this is what was pulled from me. But it's just like, this is what was pulled, and then it's on the table, and then it's objective.
And we never can.
Like, I feel like aside or kept, it's not attached to who we are.
Right, and I feel like we never compete on anything.
Yeah.
For as much as I feel like we're both very competitive people, it's like I'm never trying to beat you ever. Like, and if I feel like I'm never defending from you beating me. I think that's. Again, a very valuable thing. And I think, so, I mean, in terms of spark notes of my bio, it's like I started as a freelance graphic designer. I made a bunch of websites. I made a bunch of animated videos. And now one of my biggest passions is design. And I want to start, I spend a lot of time in like the software startup space. And I don't think, as much as those companies think that they're influencing people's lives day to day, and they're, these big software companies are revolutionizing the world, I don't think they are. I think companies like Simple Human making really, really good soap pumps matter more. It's not always the big things, it's the little things. And I think that's the thing that as I get older and as I have more disposable income, and as I decide to allocate that disposable income towards certain things, I've noticed the little things matter. And I think that's where it's where my mind is now. It's like, okay, for people, I'm not trying to sell people who are trying to pay rent. I have no I have no desire to create products for people who can't pay rent, because they're never going to get the best product, and I only want to make the best product. And so my mind for the last couple months has totally been in, how can I make the life of people who have disposable income to where, everyday menial things are covered for. And I think some of those people have the worst internal, some of those people who have everything covered in terms of financial, some of those people have the worst day-to-day lives, or they have these little things that eat at them. So how can I relieve those? And I think a lot of people are going to think when I say this, so you're trying to save rich people from worrying about the soap dispenser? No, I look at it as a more impactful problem than, or at least it's where I want to spend my time right now.
Okay. So let me try to rephrase this and throw it back at you and see if it's accurate.
Yeah.
So you're trying to, if somebody isn't constrained by their finances, try to optimize their day-to-day living in a way that it makes them the most happier. It's the most efficient for them,
because
irregardless of how much they're spending for it.
Because money can make you happy to a certain extent, and then there's a wall. There totally is, and then it comes down to relationships and all that. So if someone has they'll never go hungry again, and they'll never go for a place. They'll never sleep in a place without a roof, and then they also have their relationships down packed. They have people around them that they love, and they're doing something meaningful. Those people still have something left to gain.
That's a good point. They basically meet all of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
So the people that meet all of those needs, shelter, basic health, relationships, career fulfillment.
And because of the way humans
are the gaps?
And because of the way humans are, there's still gaps. Yeah. When you have everything, you still have nothing. That's where my mind's been.
I like that.
And I think that's just what's interesting me right now.
I like that thought, because I feel like it is pretty relevant. I mean, especially living where we live, a lot of people have met all these needs to an extent.
Today we walked around furniture stores where there was $30,000 couches that looked like $1,000 couches.
Yeah. It's a
they're creating it for someone, and if anything, I'm just more intrigued about what makes those people tick.
Yeah, it's kind of like, without a financial constraint, what's the
right?
What would you pick above all else?
What would you pick? Exactly. Yeah. It's almost way better than trying to create a product for everybody that everyone can afford and everyone can enjoy. I don't want that.
Yeah,
those people are easy. If someone can't afford rent, you give them anything and they have something. But if someone has everything, what can you give them? And now they feel like they have something. That is such a more perplexing problem for me to solve, at least from a fulfilled point of view. If I could do that, I would just be more interested in that. I don't think I'm solving pressing problems or things that are going to really make the world a better place. I don't. I'm not that person. Sorry. But I'm doing something, and I think where my head is right now, I'm really enjoying it. I think that's the first time we've ever unpacked that thoughtfully.
That's good.
But I think we definitely glazed over your bio. And I feel like I can give probably a very high level bio of what this is, and then we can dive into the peaks and the valleys of it. And so in terms of Shane, I think in terms of him and us, I think we've already like kind of covered a lot of like the similarities in terms of like we're strategic overthinkers, and we like the finer things in life, and we
connoisseurs of rum and Red Bull, apparently.
One thing I'm not this one thing I feel like both of us, neither of us are very like into alcohol.
No, we're kind of more of like enjoying the benefits
of it. Yeah,
which maybe that's a thing later on where we kind of like really dive into the nuances, the differences between tastes of liquor and everything.
But right now we're buying rings that tell us what
man game. It's an old man game.
I think that's I don't want to get into it too early. I think the moment, cause listen here, if you think any whiskey tastes good, you're fucking insane. It all tastes like gasoline. Listen, it's all gasoline. One of them might taste nuttier than the other one or whatever it is, but it's all gasoline, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of girlfriends of country singers and dads that watch too much football that claim to be whiskey connoisseurs.
It all tastes like,
I think you might be offending.
It still tastes still tastes like gasoline. One might taste better than the other one, but it's still gasoline.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, listen, Kool-Aid's better than anything else. Like or whatever,
Kool-Aid jammers
or whatever. Like it's still better than your fucking whiskey. So and at the end of the day, all this alcohol is taking us to the same spot.
I like that. Yeah. Alcohol will take us to the same spot.
Listen, you guys can drive in your Rolls Royce or whatever it is, but like, listen, man, I think the ride's really quick with alcohol. So it's like,
okay, you were gonna uptalk me.
We're really digressing.
Let me not interrupt you on that.
So, yeah, like, I mean, for Shane, he went to school for fill in the blank. I don't know that. I don't know that much about you.
Nipissing U.
What did you go for?
Nipissing U.
But what'd you go for?
I originally went for phys ed. Because I was looking at my high school phys ed teacher, and he wore shorts and a muscle tee every day to work. And I was like, fuck yeah.
That's what I want?
That's amazing. That's what I want.
Okay.
And he was driving a Toyota Corolla. And I was like, that's a car. I'd
gets
be
you
okay
A to B,
that.
man, just like the rum.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from what I know, it's like you went through university, then you went kind of just right into being a sales guy at Lifetime Fitness.
Oh yeah,
doing a lot of sales, which I think is a very common thing amongst business guys. They start in sales. Go grab something to mix this with, and
sure.
Ice.
Well, I read a book called Rich Dad and Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Did you read that?
I've not read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, you probably passed
Isn't
it
it
by now,
isn't it an investment book?
It's more of a mindset differentiator between.
Different than The Wealthy Barber.
Yeah, I don't.
I read the Wealthy Barber is much more of an investment book, right?
I didn't read The Wealthy Barber actually, but Rich Dad Poor Dad was basically a story about two dads, both who made the same amount of money, one who ended up wealthy and one did not.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a business mindset book. But anyway,
you read this one?
I read that, and it suggested that to be in business, you have to understand sales. That was the lifeblood of business.
Okay.
So that got me into it. It's like, all right, well, I'll fucking just start off being a sales rep.
I'm a horrible sales guy.
I don't think you are.
No? All right, we'll let that be what it be. But so I mean, yeah. So Shane, he started in sales and learned a lot in his time at Lifetime Fitness, and I think one of those people had always been very intrigued by business, but never had like a lot of like tangible kind of like pushers toward business. You know, is that a fair thing? Like you never had like a opportunity this pop up.
Yeah, I think I was one of the people that was looking for the easiest path in the beginning.
Okay.
And I think I reached an inflection point where I was sick of living that lifestyle.
The easiest path.
Yeah.
And you started wanting to look for the things that couldn't be achieved by the easiest path.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have at the time a need to be in business per se, or a need to excel. I was just trying to get by for a bit. And I think earlier on in school and things, it was a need to kind of fit in, which, you know, I was just like a need to be accepted early on in high school, specifically. And then through university, I kind of reached a point where I was just sick of that. And I stumbled upon Jim Rohn, who is an early personal development speaker, and it kind of opened up my eyes to what was possible. And I was, sick of kind of settling for what I thought was just acceptable by everybody else, and I was looking for something more. So that was kind of what got my mind thinking in a place that I'd never thought about before.
And so that's when you transitioned into Lifetime doing sales.
Yeah, I was going to school for phys ed at the time, and gotten poor grades all through school. And then I was just reached a point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And just was at a point where I was willing to do anything, or I was, kind of accepted an identity that I thought would make me fit in. And I reached a point where I wanted to forge one for myself. And there was, Jim Rohn introduced me to some ideas where it was an opportunity to build an identity where anything was possible, where I could look at somebody in a Lamborghini and be like, oh, that's something that was for somebody else, where it was like anything is possible. And if I want to drive that car, there's a way to do it. So it really changed the way that I looked at things. And when you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. And it changed reality a lot for me, where I was like, I can make things happen. What are the first steps? And it was at the time just excelling at school, because I was in university. I felt like I was wasting a lot of my parents' money on the tuition that I was paying. So I decided to, make a move to make the best of where I was. And that led me down like a whole path of personal development, where I realized that the program that I was in school didn't lead down a path that I wanted to be in. Because, everything had a limitation to it, where I saw business as a way that it was something that had no ceiling. And it was business is kind of like a representation of where you are. You kind of make who you are as a person. And the more you develop yourself as a person, the more you make financially, the more value you're able to give to somebody else. That's kind of how I saw it early on. And bring it back to this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, his early kind of instruction was, if you're looking to be in business, it's good to understand sales. So I started looking for something in sales. And that's how I started slinging gym memberships.
Okay, so you're slinging gym memberships, and then you had a friend. So again, you're in the mindset of, you're always talking about business. You're sharing business ideas with people, and it usually happens to be people who you're close with. You have a friend kind of like, from what I recall, you have a friend kind of like say to you, "Hey, let's start a business," and you're like, and you kind of give it a cold shoulder. Yeah. He comes back to you a couple months later with some numbers, and you're like, and you kind of look down maybe on what you're doing, the hours you're putting in, and there's an inflection point. That's where you kind of hit, I feel like you hit a wall, and then you make a decision at that wall. You either, you keep walking along that wall, or you fucking decide to blast through it. And from the story you've told me, it's kind of like you just blast through that fucking wall, and you quit the job.
Yeah, I was working a sales job at the time, a place called Lifetime Fitness in Mississauga. And a friend came to me who started an e-commerce business. And
were you not mixing this with anything?
I mean, do you have anything to mix?
Yeah, I'll get some.
Okay, you go get some mix. Zach needs some mix for his Grey Goose. It's like $100 a bottle, but he's got to mix some $5 Coke in with it. Anyway. So I had a friend at the time who was starting an e-commerce business. He was interested in starting one, came to me. I turned him down because I was working really hard at the corporate job that I was in. And a few months later, he came back to me showing me some of the money that he was making at the time. And the second I saw how much money he was making, I realized that what I was doing was not going to be as fruitful for me as I had thought. I wanted to build something that was going to last, something outside of the money I was making day to day. So I quit my corporate job shortly thereafter to pursue something where I could be building a brand or something that would outlive the work that I was putting in. So I left my corporate job with nothing to do. And it's not something that I would recommend to everybody, because when I left my corporate job, I also left my identity that I had with it. I had this identity that I was working at a good job where I wore a fucking suit every day and thought it was a good... Oh, cheers, brother. There we go. Yeah, give me some ST. I left it. I left, which I think is harder for most people. Just leaving an identity that they have with themselves more than a job. Cheers. With nothing to do, but I knew I wanted to start a business for myself. And I left. So there was like a 3-month period where I left my job and I was doing nothing, where I actually didn't want to go out in public with the fear of somebody asking me what I did, which I didn't have a good answer for. Like, I don't know if anybody can relate to this experience, but like going out and somebody being like, "What do you do?" and you not having literally any answer, especially after the experiences I had where I felt like I was building a future for myself.
It's a good feeling to have, though, earlier on in life.
I didn't look at it that way.
No, but I'm saying in retrospect.
In retrospect, yeah.
It's a good feeling to have.
Because you put your back against the wall, which I feel like a lot of people don't do, where you're like, I have to either fucking make something of this or I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so I started trying to sell things online, which started with a wallet. Didn't work. As I say to everybody who tries to start e-commerce, the first thing you try probably won't work. And that's kind of the first test of life, saying, how bad do you want this fucking thing? Because the first thing probably won't work.
Shouldn't work.
It shouldn't work.
Shouldn't work.
The worst thing for you is that it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the best thing for you is that you rethink your strategy plan and you try something else. So I started a product that didn't work, and it kind of led into... I started with wallets, and I was like, you know what? No one's buying wallets online. I need to try something else. And I was like, you know what? Who buys stuff online? Women. And that led into Nomasthetics, actually.
And so Nomasthetics, yoga wear brand, been around for 3.5 years.
3.5 years now.
Again, I think we want to keep these bios. We're about one bar of battery in the camera, so I think maybe we should move quickly through this. So Nomasthetics, yoga wear brand you built up over 3 years. Is doing well. Has a base of very, very happy customers, and also like a really, really solid brand. And then I think bringing up another area of where we have a lot of crossover, and it's that another thing where when we were at Tony Robbins, what we learned about ourselves is that one of our main kind of like things that make us tick is uncertainty, and so you decided to diversify, and so you diversified into jewelry again for women, and then and then that's where we are now. Like I think right, like that's you've kind of like figured out a system for selling shit online, and I mean, since that we've started a home decor company called Nomadic Fabric, selling bohemian home decor. And getting back to the name of this podcast, after Foreplay, we decided to take what I've kind of learned in the client services world, take what you've learned in the e-commerce world, and combine them to create essentially an e-commerce agency client services type company called Foreplay. The idea of this podcast is that it's after the work week. We're on a Friday right now, enjoying our time together. I think that's kind of where we are now. And I mean, in terms of what's going to happen the next year, like who the fuck knows? There's a lot in the works. There's the idea of, really branching out into the idea of figuring out fulfillment for e-commerce, under, whatever that is. And as well as taking retail brands and starting to transform them into fucking e-commerce machines, A lot of retail brands, they focus so much on product, which is so important. And they've got to that point where, the product is so amazing, but the distribution is holding them, but there's still so much land grab in the e-commerce space, right? And if they don't fucking move, they're now the blockbuster to Netflix, right? And I think that's where, in terms of starting Foreplay as an agency between you and I, it was that, okay, let's combine this knowledge of e-commerce with creative, which I think both of us think as in terms of a thesis, we think is going to be one of the major differentiators between successful and non-successful e-commerce businesses is creative, when ad buying on digital platforms becomes more and more competitive. And I think that's where we're at now. It's that both of us, I think both have a desire to help people that are like us 3 years ago. I think both of us have a desire to do that. That's why we're at this podcast right now. That's why we're doing this podcast. And I think also if we talk about, some of the value we want from this podcast, we want to sit down and we want to talk to people who we wouldn't have sat down and talked to. In this time, again, from what we said before, we spend a lot of time together. And today we had a conversation we never would have had. I think that value is going to be multiplied in terms of people that aren't in your everyday life. And so putting it under the ether, anybody that wants to talk to us, we're happy to talk. We're interested in it. Anybody who's running a brand who hasn't been able to monetize it, we're happy to talk. And even anybody who's got something interesting to say, we're happy to talk. This is a clean slate, and anybody out there who wants to be a part of something, send us a message.
It's a calling card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody who's looking to live their life unconventionally,
or even by design.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things that I heard very early on in my life. Today we ran past my old apartment right after you got bit by a dog.
Oh yeah, that's quite the story.
We're out for a run today, me and Shane, and I run past a dog, and he lunges at me.
It's a big dog,
dog,
probably like 320 pounds.
Yeah, lunges at me,
pure muscle.
And I get out of the way because the athlete I am.
And
Shane gets clipped
straight into the jaws of death.
And so Shane, we were running the same pair of shorts from Lululemon. Shout out to the goat. And Shane gets clipped by. And anyway, at that time we were running past my old apartment, and I don't know where I was going with this.
Well, the clip by the dog part is pretty interesting.
No, I was talking about I was definitely wanted to make a connection to the apartment.
Yeah.
What were we talking about that? What were we talking about before this? We need Jamie here.
We need a commentator.
We need a Joe Rogan Jamie.
Here's the thing. I think a good summary of it is, a lot of that we're going to be talking about is straight nonsense.
Yeah.
A lot of it is going to be the thoughts that come out of our head, but we're looking to bring people some value in terms of, maybe having some business idea or having some way of living that you think is going to work for you, and
life by design.
Bring that in.
Life by design. I know where I was going with that.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
The other morning you came into the office, and I was here already because I live here, and I had shown you a list I had written back when I was living in the old apartment that we had ran past today, and so talking about life by design. Anybody who wants to live their life like they fucking created it. The idea that anything in your life is there because it's just there is bullshit. Everything in your life is there because you're born into certain situations, but everything you can change fucking everything. And at least for me too, it's like, so you walked into the office the other day and I showed you, I found an old notebook. Again, things you find in the move, right? When you're moving from place to place. And I had found an old notebook where I had written, and literally at the top of the page, all it said was what I want. And one of those things was a condo on the harbor. Right now, where are we sitting? We're sitting in a condo on the fucking harbor. And it had said I wanted a muse business. And at that time, what that meant to me was that I could go to sleep and wake up and make money. Now, we have nomadic fabrics. That's what that is. And there was one other list on that. I think it was like a better body or something. And right now, in terms of the time when I had written that list, I'm in a way better shape than I ever had. And all of that happened by fucking design. And so this is kind of me right now. I'm real buzzed, but I'm talking real passionately about this idea about life by design. And it's that like, you make a fucking decision to design, like just as that you can decide to underline text, just as you can design like the way your apartment looks, you can design every aspect of your life. And I think that's who we're talking to, is people that believe in that idea, is that your thoughts are your reality. And it's thoughts plus reality plus real fucking work and a little bit of luck. And then you get your life by design. And right now my life is fucking designed. And so I'm talking to anybody 3 years before where I am now. You can design your life. I listen to amazing podcasts that transform my life and transform things I do every single day. And those people are still out there and they're doing really, really great things. I'm hoping to just put my spin on it, and I think you are too. And I think,
well, hey, I think that's a great note and a great rant to bring things to a close, to put a bow on it. A lot of great stuff coming your way.
Yeah.
As I hope you've gotten from this initial podcast. Zach and I hope to bring you guys a lot of value, some entertainment along the way as well. And
conversations with people you wouldn't normally hear from.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we have some interesting people we're going to bring your way. Hopefully Cassie Day.
I know you're busy, Cassie.
Get on here.
See you soon.
Get
on here.
Next episode. Anyway, after Foreplay, I don't think we touched on this before we close. The e-commerce agency Zach and I have formed is called Foreplay, the Foreplay agency, and we've named this podcast after Foreplay as the end to our week and the end to our thoughts. So hope you guys enjoy it, and we're looking forward to next time. Zach, any other last notes?
Honestly, I'll see you next week. Wherever we post this, toss a follow. And if you want to design your life, I would say it's a good place to start.
Fuck yeah, bud.
All right. Cheers.
Later.